Hi there everyone, and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. And how are you, Steve? You feeling generous today, do you think?
I am indeed. Hello everyone out there, wherever you are in the world.
Absolutely. That little generous gag that I just threw in there is mainly just to talk about the fact that a topic we haven't really covered at all so far, I think, in our run is the idea of philanthropy and using technology to sort of better enable philanthropic efforts, if that makes sense.
Well, good communications builds better relationships, Ben, and that's what it's all about.
And the technology that's available to us today is just making all of that a whole lot easier. And it's quite amazing how the internet is bringing all that sort of thing together. With the democratization of information, making communication easihave it's putting a lot of cheaper technology in the hands of a lot of the world's poorer people that have up until this time found it quite difficult, really, to have access to this sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ben, it all starts with, you think here we are in the Western world, how lucky we are. You want to know what to make for dinner, you can Google some recipe and up it pops, iPad in the kitchen. You get knowledge, you get information, you can make a dish for dinner. Now, for someone in a developing nation, that sort of information in a different way is just as important. Education, knowledge about very often farming or agriculture and, health are ways in which communication through the internet can really help communities wherever they are on the planet.
Absolutely. Now, before we keep going on with this topic, we'll obviously come back to it. I just want to backtrack a bit and just mention that one of the platforms that FiST Chat appears on is Digicosm TV. Now, Digicosm TV is part of a larger network called Film Annex, run by an Italian man in New York called Francesco Rulli. And what basically, just a bit of background on that, is that essentially both of us have got a lot of videos online. We've got our own web TVs that are in the structure of his format, and the idea is to generate online revenue through that way, through advertising, etc. Now, as part of what has been going on there, he's started an initiative in Afghanistan using the platform itself, the web TV platform. He created a new web TV called Afghan Development Web TV, which essentially has been, it's there to show videos of, current events, interviews, news clips in Afghanistan, specifically the youth in Afghanistan. Very noble cause, and it's a very good example of how you can use the technology to do this sort of thing. You couldn't imagine something like this even, 5-6 years ago occurring. And the great thing is that through the platform, aside from the locals, for example, and people that are involved uploading the videos from the region and showing how it's all working, the platform itself generates a revenue stream that can then be pumped back into the work that's being done in Afghanistan that these guys are doing. And from the sounds of it, they've just finished creating 40 internet classrooms over there with 400 computers to connect 160,000 Afghan children, which is pretty, it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome effort. I guess it just kind of highlights a different way of going about doing a philanthropic effort like that. It's different from how it would be done in the past, whether it's just a corporate coming in and giving money and setting something up in a more direct way. This is using the internet, using technology to connect and educate these children. So it's pretty amazing. So it's a good starting point, I think, for us to talk about what we're talking about today, I think.
Oh, well, definitely, Ben. I mean, it's been shown that long-term, providing knowledge and information to these communities wherever they are generally gives the best results. And we've certainly seen in the last few years, I think, various charities or non-government organisations undertake such initiatives as providing a goat, for instance, for a village, which provides, a sustainable, source of food or income for a villager. And those sorts of things work obviously a lot better than just short-term fixes when you're actually trying to help people find a way out of, a subsistence existence. And now with developing nations coming along as rapidly as they have and more, facilities being available to them, I think the thing that really helps them more than anything else you can imagine is actually education. And if you can educate the younger generation, you are doing a fantastic service for a whole generation that in that nation. The schools are very poorly resourced, and yet everybody who goes to the school, teachers and students, are keen to learn. And it's something that we can all do. That's an area where any of us using the internet can get in touch with these communities and help out.
Well, the other thing too is that it provides a far more participatory sort of format for even like the recipients of this of the giving here, because it's not just like someone comes in, plonks a bunch of money, and sets up a school or something. It's more they're providing the technology for these people to actually interact with, get involved as well. I guess it's part of the communication process. It's part of the education of it. It's sort of a win-win, so to speak, in that it sort of hits a couple of things on the head at the same time, and it's pretty awesome that way. Just wanted to highlight too. I mean, quite a few years ago, you travelled to Nepal to do a couple of docos as well, and that was pretty awesome. Can you talk a bit about that and how that sort of thing sort of fits in with this?
Yeah, well, that's a good example, and I mean that's pre sort of penetration by internet into those communities, and even in the Western world there wasn't so much broadband, but the idea was I went to a village in the jungles of Nepal in the south, where I helped. Through making the documentary, made a DVD which raised money for a community centre. And also while I was in Kathmandu with the same people that were assisting with the community centre in Kathmandu, they actually have a school, Dhruv Batara School. And what they've done there is they've provided computers, textbooks, and actually buildings for students, as well as 100 places for students that otherwise couldn't afford the fees. And that's done every year. So if you actually go online, you can see those videos on Filmatics. And what's great about that there, you'll see an email address at the start of the film. And if you contact John through that email address, you can make a donation of resources. And hopefully we'll be going back in the next year or so to make a continuation of both those documentaries and see how they're going.
No, absolutely. That'll be fantastic to see.
I can't wait.
Absolutely. If we move a little bit further along just on this idea of the technology and things like with donations and that sort of thing, I'm always fascinated by this idea of young philanthropists using technology to raise money for certain things. There was, for example, there's one that I was reading about where this 21-year-old girl used Facebook and Twitter to promote a charity concert, and she was actually able to get $100,000 for the Special Olympics for it.
Fantastic, isn't it?
That's a really good example of using social media and the internet to sort of bring everything together, and it's almost like it's a way to make these things happen with very, very few resources. Really, you can reach so many people.
Well, that's it. People very often just need to be united in a cause. I mean, I think the motivation is there for most people to help others. And that's once again where the internet, if you, with social media, you can actually reach out, you can get people on board, and you can do great things.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's just this idea that the internet can connect you to so many people a lot easier than traditional methods have in the past. Even if it's things like, connecting, people that are not as well off, giving them, say, job opportunities or, like you said, educational opportunities. It puts them all in context with sort of like the larger world. It gives them a window into, say, what we've all been enjoying in the Western world for so long, and it's just an amazing thing, and it needs to be encouraged a lot more. And I think we were kind of mentioning this before we kicked off today, that it's sort of in its infancy, all of this stuff. It's almost like we're at the tip of a sort of philanthropic drive to really start using these mediums to really do some good.
But also you can. And I mean, certainly, one very positive thing, but people often forget that there's a lot of good information that's just shared for free on the internet. And if you're in a village somewhere and you've got a problem with your crops, they're not growing for whatever reason, or there could be, a health problem, very often you can go online and hopefully you can find somebody who gives some good advice and can give you the knowledge. And in a place where you don't have good medical care, or you don't have access to a whole range of hardware goods to protect your crops, some good knowledge or just access to good information can make all the difference to your life. And when it comes to education, the provision of books or online resources are just enough to make students understand a little bit more adventurous, and they're the ones that who then go on, become better educated, and help their communities down the track.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're sort of coming up towards the end here. We're slowly starting to run out of time, but is there any sort of things you can imagine happening in the future as far as this is concerned? Do you really think? Do you think it'll be a slow, gradual process to sort of get this thing happening, or will there be a snowball effect?
I think it'll be slow and it'll be over a long period of time. But, in much the same way that over the last generation, we've seen goods like computers and phones become cheaper and cheaper, and access to internet networks cheaper and cheaper. As these things happen, as developing countries continue to grow and hopefully prosper through better education, through better contact with the rest of the world. I mean, globalization isn't one way. It's not just about the Western world trading on their prosperity. It's about sharing it with the whole globe. And I think as we see more and more of that, and we see more and more people these days concerned about issues, concerned about others and wanting to help others, I think it's something that will occur naturally. So it'll be slow, but I think it'll be very positive, and hopefully, from that we can build better relationships with everyone and better cultural experiences across the globe.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, that's about it for now. So thanks again for the chat.
Not a problem. Check out my videos on Philanthropy, FiST Chat fans.
Absolutely. And also on Small Wave TV, where they're all available, along with many, many other fine productions. So don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. We'll have blogs written this week. We'll also probably put some links up to some of the things we were talking about in this episode as well. It's quite a bit that we covered there. So that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next week.